Hello, this is Simon from writtenlegalenglish.com and welcome to this end of the week video where I'm going to go through that terrible text that I asked you to have a look at on Tuesday and give you my suggested answer, my suggested redraft, and go into a little bit more detail about the problem of jargon. So if you didn't see the text, this is it. If you haven't done it, pause the video now, have a think about it, try to work out what's going on, and it's not easy, and then come back to this video. If you've already done it, let's get stuck into it. Okay, so I'm not going to waste time analysing these in detail. I'm just going to show you what the jargon is in this sentence, and it's pretty much everything, to be honest. Touch base offline means to meet and talk. Peel the onion apparently means to examine a problem in detail. It's on my radar means I'm to be aware of something. Blue sky thinking is to come up with creative ideas. To sing from the same hymn sheet means to make sure everyone is in agreement. A thought shower means to come up with several ideas. Change agents means to lead change in a particular area. And boil the ocean means to waste time. Now, some of these are what you might consider well-known pieces of jargon. Certainly to sing from the same hymn sheet is something that an expression or a saying that I've heard 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. However, some of these are not that I am that old, but it was being used that long ago. But some of these jargon pieces of language, whatever you want to call them, are brand new, and I'd never heard of, for example, peeling the onion or boiling the ocean. So these were completely brand new to me. So jargon was and continues to be in the future. But now I want to talk about the real problem with jargon. I don't just want to say don't use jargon. I want to investigate this in a little bit more detail, because even if we were going to translate the text from jargon into non-jargon, now that we know what that jargon means, we'll discover that there are still lots of problems when it comes to communicating messages orally or in writing. So let's have a look at that. Let's meet and talk about this challenging problem. What problem? Now, it could be the case that the context is clear, but it could be the case that the context is not clear. And this is a common writing problem, that the writer knows what they're thinking about and makes the assumption that the reader will also know. But if the reader is new to this issue, then of course the reader is then trying to work out what the context is as they're reading through the document. And of course, this is not something that the reader should do. So even though you think it's obvious, it's worth including in your writing the details, the context. Give the reader as much help as possible. So tell the reader what the problem is. Let's meet and talk about this challenging problem regarding getting the due diligence drafted on time, whatever it might be. The next question. I'm aware that we need some ideas to ensure that everyone is in agreement. Why? What's the problem? Once again, there's context missing that you should be including in your writing. We need several ideas about what, for what reason, to lead change in our industry. Why? Why do we need to lead change in our industry? How will this benefit us? And not waste time, which then leads to the question, what have we been doing wrong that perhaps has been wasting time? So even if we translate the jargon into its translated form, we are still missing out lots of important information when it comes to communicating an effective message. And if we don't communicate an effective message, our message will not be successful, and more than likely you're going to really annoy the reader, because now the reader's got to try and work out what's going on. So it's clear that there are communication issues when it comes to using jargon, or even the plainer forms of jargon, when it comes to giving the reader context or filling in the details. But there is another really important issue when it comes to jargon, and that is the people who actually use jargon and the reasons why they do so. I was reading an article this week and I've linked to it below this video. I strongly recommend that you take 5-10 minutes to read through this article because it is really fascinating. I'll summarize it using this text from the article Those who are of low status within the group are also predisposed towards jargon-filled language. These people appear to want to compensate for their lowly position by using language that is often associated with high status. What is this trying to say? It's saying that people at the bottom of the career ladder, so those of a low status within the group, are more likely to use jargon-filled language, so are also predisposed towards jargon-filled language. And they use this jargon language to compensate for their lowly position. In other words, they want to appear higher within the firm, more senior within the firm, knowledgeable, that they have a level of expertise by using jargon because they think that people at the top use jargon. But we know from the last couple of weeks and last couple of videos that I've put out on Tuesdays and Friday that the opposite is true. That if someone communicates using plain language, communicates clearly, communicates all of the details, then that person is more likely to be perceived or more likely to be understood as being an expert, as being a senior practitioner within their field, as being educated, as being someone who has reputation within their company. So there's this mismatch in perception. People at the bottom of the ladder think, I've got to use jargon because it makes me look better. And then you've got the actual reaction to that jargon, which is people who don't use jargon are seen as being more professional and as having more status within the firm. So I don't want you to fall into the trap of thinking, particularly at the beginning of your legal careers or business careers, I've got to use this jargon because it's going to make me look good, when we know from studies the opposite is true. In the article, one of the last things that is written says, and there is still one big question left to answer. Does jargon actually work to convince people that you are a higher status group member, or does the audience just see through it? We know the answer to this. If you've watched my videos from the last couple of weeks, we know that the audience can see straight through it. They don't respect people who use jargony legal English, but people who can communicate clearly and therefore can communicate effectively. Okay guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please join me on my social media channels. Please like me on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, connect to me on LinkedIn, or think about supporting me on Patreon, and that way you won't miss any of my content that I put out on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Okay guys, have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you again on Tuesday next week.